Hello everybody, this is Mr. Kusaj again, and we're going to do part 2 of chapter 2.5, solving rational equations. So now we're going to move away from the graphs and just simply solve the equations using algebra. Do you remember these kind of problems and how you solve them? Right? Notice that it does have a fraction here. So how did you solve them? There's a couple of ways, but the way we're going to do it today is using common denominator. So I see a denominator of 3, so if I multiply everything by 3, look what happens. Right? 3 times x is 3x. The 3's cancel here, so I'm left with just 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So now I end up with an equation, no more fractions. Right? That's what I want you to do today. So you see an equation. It has maybe 2 fractions. Okay? I want to cancel the 2 and the 3, so what you do is you think of a common denominator. Here there was only one denominator, 3. But here we got 2 and 3. So what will cancel 2 and 3? What's the common denominator here? 6, right? If I multiply everything by 6, I know it'll cancel the 2 and the 3. Okay? So I know I'm doing this quick, but this is recall. You should know this. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. X. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Times 2 is 4. Okay? You can see it any way you want. 6 times x is 6x over 2 is 3x. 6 times 2 is 12 divided by 3 is 4. 6 times 2 is 12. Okay? And then you can just go on and solve it like you normally do. Okay? This third one, the common denominator is not just a number, right? I have 8 and x. Well, just like here, you took the two numbers and multiply them. Take the two denominators and multiply them. That'll be your common denominator, 8x. The 8 will cancel the 8. The x will cancel the x. So I'm multiplying everything by 8x so I can cancel denominators. What cancels here? The x cancels here. So I'm left with 16. The 8 cancels here. So I'm left with 2x. And 2 times 8 times x is 16x. No more fraction, etc. You can solve it. That's the kind of thing we're going to do today. Okay? Let's get started. So, here is our first rational equation that we have to solve. Okay? So, here's the denominator, x minus 8. That's the only denominator. So, I'm going to multiply every single part by this denominator. So my style, the way I do it, is I actually write it really small next to each term. X minus 8, x minus 8. Right? So x times x minus 8 is that. Here, the x minus 8's cancel. That's why I did this. The x minus 8's cancel, so I'm left with 6. Here, I got x minus 8 times 0. See? No more fractions. Now I just treat it like a normal equation. So what do you do here? Well, distribute. Well, we don't have to worry about this, right? This is times 0, so it just becomes 0. This is what? X squared, right? X times x is x squared. X times 8 is 8x, negative. Oh, look. This is a trinomial. You got to get used to spotting trinomials, right? So this is when you get 2x answers. So I'm going to factor, and what do you know? It doesn't factor. I don't know if you knew this, but sometimes they can't factor. There are no two numbers that multiply to 6 and add or subtract to 8. None. You can't factor it. So now you got to take out the big gun, the quadratic formula. So I already did it for you. I plugged in all the numbers, right? Remember, x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember that? This is it. We're forced to do this because it can't factor. So I plug in the numbers, and I get all of this. I simplify, you can use a calculator, and I get this. Now wait a minute, Mr. C, didn't you say that there were two answers? There is. One of them is 4 plus square root of 10, the other one is 4 minus square root of 10. So you can split them up by why would you want to, when you can write it concisely like this. Okay? So we solved this rational equation. Let's see another one. It turns out that sometimes an answer can be extraneous. That means it's there, you got it, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and if you plug it back in, it won't work. So we call that extraneous. It'll happen here. So here is our rational equation, right? Now it looks like a lot of different denominators, okay? But whenever you see a quadratic, get in the habit of factoring it because it makes things easier, right? You know when you factor this, you're not going to see x squared anymore. So that's the hint I gave here on the side. Always factor the trinomials, and look what you get. So if I factor this, I get this, x minus 4, x minus 2, which matches these two. So what is my common denominator? Do I use x minus 2? No, that'll work to cancel this, but it won't cancel this. Do I use x minus 4? No, that'll cancel this one and this one, but you can still, so what do I use? Both of them, right? You multiply them together. So really small, right? Really small. X minus 2, x minus 4. X minus 2, x minus 4. X minus 2, x minus 4. So now go back and cross out the ones that cancel. Oh, look at that. The whole thing cancels here. This one with this one, this one with this one. So we're left with just 4 here. What do we have here? The x minus 2 cancels. So we're left with x minus 4 times 3x. That's what I have here. What do we have here? The x minus 4 cancels. So we're left with x minus 2 times 2. That's what I have here. And voila, no more fractions. Now we just treat it like any other equation. I see parentheses, distribute. You get an x squared there, so you know it's going to be a trinomial. Combine. How do you solve trinomials? Make this a 0. Right? How do you solve it? First, try factoring. Hopefully it will factor so you don't have to take out the big gun and do the quadratic formula. But if you don't want to factor and you don't mind using the quadratic formula and you're fast at it, go for it. Go for it. Use the quadratic formula every time. So I tried factoring it, and it does work. 3x plus 2, x minus 4. That's what this factors to. Okay? I set them equal to 0, right? This times this equals to 0. So if this is equal to 0, then x is negative 2 over 3. If this is equal to 0, then x equals 4. Now, if you look carefully, way on top here, the 4 might work here, but it won't work here. Remember, you can't have a 0 in the bottom, so the 4, even though we did everything correctly, does not work here. It gives us a 0 in the bottom, so we say it's extraneous. Okay, so really, there's only one solution. We can't use this one. Okay, that's basically it. Could you solve a couple on your own? At least copy them down and get as far as you can before I see you next time. Here's the first one. That's an X. Let me erase the line that goes through it. And here's the second one down here. Okay? So try solving them. Get as far as you can, and we'll definitely start the next class with these two. All right. See you next time. Bye.